Greetings, everyone. Let's head on over to the secret chest and see what awaits this time. Okay, here we go. Oh, this one's a modern classic. We have Prom Night. Oh no. And slightly less of a classic, the remake of Prom Night. Looks like it's a double feature, guys. Now playing. And now laying. So, Prom Night, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis was fast establishing herself as a bit of a scream queen. She'd just come off of Halloween, followed quickly by Terror Train, and then Prom Night, and then she went off to do Halloween 2. And then suddenly, if you look at her IMDb profile, it gets really diverse. It's like, I think she realized she was kind of doing the same old all the time. It's like, I don't want to be doing just slasher movies for my whole life. So she very quickly began to diversify her roles more. And boy, she's just awesome. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Anyway, Prom Night and the remake? Yeah, well, let's talk about both of them today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So I picked this Blu-ray up a little while ago, finally got around to watching it, and I was trying to remember if I had actually seen Prom Night before, because I remember hearing about it at the time when I was a kid. I would have been, 8 when it came out? Yeah, a little bit young to see it, but I was sure I had seen at least, if not the whole thing, I'd seen at least part of it, but I could not for the life of me remember. Until the other night, when I finally sat down and watched it with Skinslip, who has seen it many times before, and he wanted to watch it with me, so hey, yeah, more the merrier. And as we got to the opening scene, it started to become familiar to me. The opening scene takes place in this abandoned mental hospital. There's basically a bunch of kids playing sort of a variation of tag. Called Killer, where basically, if there's one person designated as the killer, and you have to hide and not get caught. And if you get caught, then you also become a killer, and then have to track down the remaining kids. And whoever, I guess, is the last to survive wins. So, the little sister of one of the boys playing just kind of wanders in and is like, hey, what are you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah. And they start chasing her around the mental hospital and just teasing her and taunting her and stuff like that. And what ends up happening is she gets cornered where she can't escape. She's younger than them, and she's scared and doesn't realize they're just being mean kids. And she backs up and actually falls out of like a third-story window and falls to the ground and dies. And yeah, and at that point I realized, yes, I have seen this before. At least I'd seen that scene before. And as I recall, what had happened was it was on TV one day, and I had heard about it, so I tuned in just to check it out a little bit. And it was that opening scene, and I was about the age of these kids at the time, and also was bullied quite a bit at the time. I was a bit of a runt when I was younger, and got picked on a lot. I skipped grade 3 and went straight to grade 4, which meant a lot of the kids were bigger than me, and so I was an easy target. And I literally got beat up after school frequently, or threatened, or bullied, or pushed around, and it was just a freaking nightmare. But I survived. Hey, I came out okay in the end, so no lasting harm done, other than the flashbacks and the nightmares and the lifelong vow to make sure nothing like that ever happens to me again. Anyway, so as a kid, this scene really bothered me, and after the little girl fell out the window and everything, I was just like, yep, done, and switched to cartoons or something. But it really freaked me out, and it stuck with me for a very long time, to the point where I think I must have blocked it out of my memory, because I had completely forgotten all about it until watching the movie again and saying, oh yeah, oh my god, I actually do remember this. But I had never seen the rest of it. Of that, I am certain. It was one of those ones that was kind of on my radar for a long time, and I just never got around to seeing it until now. And honestly, I'm really glad I did, because A, it allowed me to rediscover and face that childhood trauma of seeing it when I was far too young. And also, it's just a really freaking good movie, honestly. It has a lot more disco in it than I was expecting. But that's okay, because I like disco, so that was all cool to me. I mean, it's very much of its time. Well, I guess it's 1980, so disco would have been sort of right on the cusp of being on the way out. Like, the fad was kind of dying off. But, yeah, cool disco scene at the prom with Jamie Lee, having a big dance-off, kind of, with her date there. Yeah, so basically the story picks up about 6 years later, and one thing I noticed was, wow, these little kids sure aged a lot in that 6 years. Yeah, it's the old, actors in their 20s playing teenagers, but we'll just take that as read, that we'll just pretend that that's all fine, and they actually are 16 or whatever, 17. So I should mention, at the end of that opening scene, all the kids vow not to tell anyone what happened. So they take a pact, make a pact to keep it a secret and not tell anyone, because they don't want to go to jail. I mean, they're terrified of being caught and having serious repercussions. So they keep it a secret. So for a long time, there's it basically, it's a cold case. Nobody knows who did it. Nobody knows what the circumstances were or anything. However, right at the tail end of the scene, we see a pair of feet walk up and a shadow fall over the body. So someone saw what happened. So then we fast forward to 6 years later, and high school prom is coming up and everything like that. And a lot of the kids, now older, are getting sort of prank phone calls, or what they think are prank phone calls, from someone saying, I know what you did, I'm going to find you, I'm going to get you, it's, payback time, blah, blah. Just various threatening messages in this sort of raspy, breathy voice. And you see a close-up of someone with all of the kids' names on a list, and as he or she calls them, crosses the names off the list. So prom is looming, and you know where this is headed, basically, that the whole thing is going to culminate in prom night, because that's the title of the movie. So it kind of plays out, actually, like a giallo. Like, I saw it, a very similar structure to what you usually see in a giallo film. A giallo film essentially is an Italian murder mystery. It later sort of evolved into, it's considered more horror than murder mystery, but it's like a really violent and graphic murder mystery, I guess. So you can call it a horror if you want to. It kind of fits either way. But the big thing about giallo is it's a murder mystery where it keeps you guessing all the way through, right to the very end when the killer is revealed and you find out who it was. And one of the things I have to say about a lot of giallo films that I've seen is sometimes when they reveal the killer, you're just kind of going, huh? Like, okay, granted, I did not see that coming, but nor does it fully make sense to me, but okay. Not so in this one. This one actually makes a lot of sense when you do find out who the killer is and what their motivation was. It's kind of unique in that here we have, up until this point, we have this killer stalking all these kids who kept the secret for so long, picking them off one by one in just some incredibly brutal death scenes in some cases, just really, quite disturbing. But when the killer is finally revealed and you see who it is and what their motivation was, and realize what their motivation was, it's actually very tragic, and you actually empathize to some extent with the killer as to why they were doing this, and that I think makes it kind of unique amongst slasher films. I mean, how many slasher films do you find, or do you see, where you actually understand the motives of the killer to the point where you empathize with them? So it's pretty interesting in that respect. So I mean, long and short of it is, I really liked it a lot, actually, and I will be revisiting this one again. I don't really want to say too much about it. I mean, really, the big key scenes are, well, the disco dance-off with Jamie Lee Curtis, and basically Jamie Lee Curtis is going to the prom with this guy who has just recently broken up with his girlfriend, who just wasn't very nice to him, very vapid, and the girlfriend is, very miffed by the whole thing. So they show up at the prom, and the other couple, and then the ex-girlfriend has a date. She's basically just dating like the douchiest guy in school to try to piss off her ex-boyfriend, and the ex-boyfriend really doesn't care because he doesn't, has no regrets about dumping her. So Jamie Lee and him just have like a really, very well choreographed disco dance number to just kind of rub it in her face. But I mean, the other standout scenes obviously are the kills, the actual kills themselves. It's not that they're particularly creative or over the top per se. They're just very brutal and affecting. In particular, because there's the first kill in particular I found kind of disturbing, because it was the one girl who was very much the sweet innocent one of the group, and she was very upset by the whole the death of their friend, or their friend's sister, at the beginning, and she's obviously carried that trauma with her throughout the movie. Throughout the past 6 years, and we come in where she's basically about to have her first time with her date, but she's very nervous and doesn't feel comfortable. She's not ready yet, and he basically just drops her like a rock and leaves. And he says, "Well, if you won't, then I'll find someone who will." And he takes the corsage out and just throws it on the ground. So I mean, it's very tragic. I mean, you feel so bad for her. I mean, she's so nice, and was just in this horrible situation, and then and then that's the moment where she gets killed, is when she's had this horrible experience with her almost first time, gets dumped at the prom, and then she gets killed, and it's very sad, it's very tragic, and I felt really bad for that character. And honestly, I felt bad for a lot of the characters. However, there were some who were less, I guess, empathetic. But in the end, as I say, I mean, I empathize more with the killer than anything else, for the most part. I mean, it's not entirely, obviously, because I mean it's murder, but you can understand the motivations and the rage and emotion that drove the killer. So I mean, I would definitely recommend Prom Night if you've never seen it. Do expect it to be a little bit dated, just because it is from the disco era, and it makes no apologies about that. But if you like to get your funk on, then you probably won't mind. It was quite a treat, and I'm glad that I finally watched it. And I have to say, by the way, Synapse Films, this is like a cult film, like a group that releases cult films that really makes every release a labor of love, and this one was no exception. I was reading some reviews of some of the old releases of this from other companies, and the big complaint everybody was having was just how beat up the transfers were, like how beat up the prints were and such. So Synapse basically goes through these things frame by frame and does like painstaking restoration. They've apparently been working on a restoration of Dario Argento's Suspiria for like the past 3 years. They've been talking about, it's like they've got the rights, they're working on it, but they're taking their time because they want it to be absolutely perfect. So I can't wait to get that one. I'm definitely going to grab it. Actually, speaking of Argento, they've released a few others of his as well. They put out Phenomena recently, is about to come out, and Tenebrae, which I really want to get. It was a limited edition steelbook, I think, or collector's edition, and I may have missed it. I don't know, but if by some twist of luck I managed to get my hands on it, I'd be very happy indeed. Alrighty, so that's the original from 1980, and then we have. Where's the other? Sorry, I gotta find the other thing. Then we have this one from, what is it, 2008, I think? Yeah, 2008. Well, I thought, okay, this is what I was expecting it to be. Just because of the spate of remakes. I thought this was just going to be a straight up remake. It's not. In fact, it's basically Prom Night in name only. It's accurate in that, yes, it takes place on the night of the prom, but that is where the similarities end. The story here is pretty straightforward. Basically, there's no tragedy involving kids in the opening scene, nothing like that. It's basically a psychotic high school teacher has become obsessed with the main character and killed her family in front of her while she was cowering under the bed. And he didn't know she was there. But basically killed her family in front of her, wanting her for himself. So he was caught and jailed, and here it is a few years later. Okay, so we get that similarity to the few years later thing. And he's escaped, and he's on the loose. So he is basically tracking her down. It's prom night's coming up, and he's going to track her down. He's going to kill everybody that she knows, everybody that she loves, so that he will be all that is left. Now, here's the thing about this. It's really kind of dull, to be honest. Yeah, it doesn't even have a lot of the tropes that you expect from sort of a mid to late 2000s teen horror movie. It's just really dull. I mean, there's just no real suspense there. I mean, for a couple reasons. I mean, first off, a lot of the time when you have a killer stalking somebody, you follow the victim. I talked about this back when I was doing my Nightmare on Elm Street 4 review. But you follow the victim because you want to be feeling the fear that the victim is feeling, the feeling of being hunted. And there's a couple of scenes that kind of do that. But the problem is it keeps cutting to... We see a lot of the killer and the way he's kind of doing things and such. And... No discredit to the actor playing the killer, because I think he's an excellent actor, and he's been doing some other stuff recently that's apparently pretty good. He's actually playing Jonah Hex in Legends of Tomorrow, so that's pretty cool. But and I mean, he plays the psychotic, obsessed, creepy teacher guy really well. Very effective. And I mean, the young cast is fine. I mean, they're very attractive and appealing for the most part, but again, it's just that I think that the way it was done is just so bland. So I mean, I honestly I really don't have much to say about it because I was just so bored by it. I mean, I was watching the movie and I had the other computer going and I was looking up stuff on the internet and checking Facebook. And I glanced back to the movie and it's like, yep, haven't missed anything important. Carrying on, I would look back. It's like, oh, killer's following somebody. Probably should pay attention to this part. Okay, killed that person. All right, back to the internet. There was I was not invested in these characters or this story at all. And it's not that it was a bad premise. I mean, the premise was fine. I mean, there's no reason why you can't make a good suspenseful movie out of that. But, and the actors in it are just giving it their all. Like, for example, we have Idris Elba in it, who's just one of the finest British actors working today. We have him playing the cop who originally caught the teacher back in the day, and who's been kind of keeping an eye on things, and who is now trying to track him down before he kills everybody at the prom. So he's trying to find him and catch him before he catches up with the girl, well, in particular the girl he's obsessed with. And I really liked the actor playing his partner, who was just sort of this, this young, skinny guy with glasses, but very take charge, take no crap, matter of fact, get things done kind of character. I liked him. I liked him a lot. So yeah, I mean, but I mean, beyond some decent acting performances, it was really just the story itself, and I think the way it was directed, it just wasn't particularly effective. Even the jump scares. There's a few jump scares where you don't jump because you see them coming a mile away, and there's just no impact to them at all. So after I was done, I was like, well, let's watch some of the special features. So I was watching the making of, and this does not happen very often, but I actually turned off the making of because it was just such a fluff piece. Everybody talking about what an amazing movie they were making and what a great idea it was, and patting themselves on the back endlessly, saying, "Oh, it's a wonderful mix of genres because you got like the cop drama with the police guys trying to track the killer. You got the psycho killer, and you got the coming of age of Prom, and it's this really interesting mix of genres." And it's like, no, actually, it's not. It probably could have been, but it isn't. So that's pretty much it. I don't want to waste any more time talking about this one. I want to get on to other movies that were better. So we're going to end this review now. So yeah, original, definitely check it out. It's great. I really enjoyed it a lot. I will watch this one over and over again now that I'm past my childhood drama. This one, not so much. I might occasionally pop it in just for some of the acting, but and some of the stuff. I honestly, I don't know why I would pop this thing out, but I probably will at some point just when I'm feeling masochistic. So, quick thank you to my Patreon sponsors, especially my two highest level sponsors, Kyle Pellegrini and Get Your Gorgeous On, the always wonderful e-mag maintained by Michelle O'Toole and Simon Hedger. Thank you very much for the support, guys. If anyone else wants to join the Patreon party, please feel free to do so. Every dollar counts, and it goes right back into the show. So, yeah, we should probably pick a chocolate bar, eh? Pick a chocolate bar. How about a caramel? Yeah, let's go with the caramel, because the first one had a great mystery about the secret being kept by the kids about what happened at the mental hospital, and the secret of who the killer is. So, the caramel secret, secrets all around. Alrighty, we'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara. How do they get the caramel inside a caramel bar? Yeah, oh well.